Lewis Hamilton!
It's not over yet.
Max Verstappen! Champion of the world!
Hello everybody, welcome to Formula One in 2024. A slightly earlier start than we would have anticipated. It is the 1st of February and no doubt you've heard the news by now. The biggest deal done on transfer deadline day is that of Lewis Hamilton, who will be a Ferrari driver from 2025. We've had no official statements yet from Ferrari or from Mercedes. We're expecting one later tonight from Mercedes. But yes, the news that after 12 years as a Mercedes Works team driver, after 6 titles, after everything they've been through, he's taken the decision to move to the Scuderia. So what we did is I got my shell out, we sounded the alarm, and you all answered the call. Well done, everybody. Welcome. As I said, it's not April Fool's Day. It's the 1st of February. Martin, in all your years covering the sport, can you remember a move as seismic as this one?
Oh, we've had a few. I mean, even Lewis leaving McLaren to go to Mercedes would be on that list, and Michael Schumacher's moves, and Ayrton Senna leaving McLaren and going to Williams, of course. So it's of that magnitude. I think it's great news for Formula One, great news for Ferrari and Lewis. Don't know how Mercedes will view it, but it's a new opportunity for them as well. And I think what a story that's going to be. Lewis in scarlet.
You said, though, this is what the sport needed.
It is, because we've just had a week of, Lando settling in at McLaren for many, many years, Verstappen at Red Bull, George Russell at Mercedes, Leclerc re-signed for Ferrari for a long time. And it all looked a little bit static and it needed energising. And, well, we've got that, haven't we?
Damon, Karun, Natalie, we'll come to you in a moment, but we've got to get to Jensen, who's kindly taken time out. I know he's got to get onto the school run shortly. So, Jensen, I know you're waking up in LA to this news. How much of a surprise? You spit out your lovely Californian granola at this one?
Surprised, yeah. I mean, it's this is massive for the sport, as Martin already said. If Lewis stayed at Mercedes, it kind of, if they won races next year or didn't win races, it would have been good. But having this shift to Ferrari is massive. I think it's great for the sport. Everyone's going to have their eyes on Formula One, especially Ferrari and Lewis, but also how he does up against Charles Leclerc, who has the contract. So I'm guessing he's the one that's going to be alongside Lewis at Ferrari. It's a big deal making this change in your career when you've been with one team for so long to suddenly jump into someone else's team. It's tough. So fair play to Lewis. It's a toughie.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about this one in the grand scheme of things, I suppose there's so many questions we could ask, but how has he arrived at this decision and why now?
I think, obviously 12 years at Mercedes is longer than most people ever spend in Formula One. So to spend it with one team and achieve what they have, maybe he also wanted something different, to spice it up a little bit. We all get to that point in our career. It's like, you know what? I've done what I set out to achieve, and you choose to retire. Whereas he's gone the other route and gone, you know what? I feel like I need a change. I'm going to go to Ferrari. So, it's a big deal, and I cannot wait to see how he goes in the Ferrari. The weird thing is that it's quite an early call, though, right? To mention it this early on. Not that it has been mentioned yet, hopefully later today. But it's a year before he'll be stepping into the Ferrari. So how is the atmosphere going to be at Mercedes?
Well, you tell us. I mean, how do you think both he and Toto and George and the rest of the team are going to be able to deal with this for an entire season, knowing that he's going on to the biggest rival?
It's not easy. What do they hold back from Lewis? I mean, he knows the ins and outs of this team very well anyway. But when they get down to the nitty gritty, are there going to be certain things they hold back from Lewis? Possibly. And for George, he's got to start thinking about a new teammate again. Is it going to be someone like, one of his karting rivals, Alex Albon, or is it going to be Fernando Alonso, the guy that just doesn't go away? He's always there fighting for the top spots in the top teams. So who knows? And this definitely makes it an interesting year for us, looking forward to 2025 already. We still have another year of Formula One to look forward to, but 2025, yeah, this is proper exciting. But for Lewis, this is a brave move and a lot of respect to him, because he's not just going to another team. He's going to Ferrari. He's going to a team where they speak Italian, a language he doesn't know, a language that Charles does know very well. This is a biggie. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. And this is, as everyone has already said, is great for F1.
Well, I mean, you were his teammate for a long period of time at McLaren. Just explain that lure, and particularly for Lewis, the lure of Ferrari. His great hero, Ayrton Senna never made it to get into the red overalls, but he is going to do that. And I wonder if it's completing a dream for him.
I think for all of us, we were all little kids one day, a long time ago, and you see the red Ferrari and you think, I want to race for that team. So yes, it's a biggie. And, I didn't get the chance to race Ferrari. It was very, very close. Contracts almost in hand. But I think this is a special one for him. And I just, we're looking into the future too far, but I just hope it goes well for him, because ending your career when you've had such highs, ending it with a team that, and you don't perform there, it's tricky. But I look forward to seeing Lewis, and I think Lewis is in a place where he's got a lot of confidence at the moment in himself. I think he's driving at his best, and if he can carry that over to Ferrari, yeah, we're looking forward to a great fight between him and Charles.
Okay, we were going to save this chat to the end. I will with you lot, don't worry. But we've only got you for a short moment. So if you're going to put, a couple of bucks on it, who would you say will be alongside him in the car, alongside George in the car after this?
Alongside George, I mean, I have to say, yeah, I might have a man crush on my ex-teammate, Fernando Alonso, but I would love to see Fernando Alonso. He is 42 now, I think, but the hunger's there. And if the hunger's there, the fitness is there, he drives every day. He's driving a go-kart or some sort of race car. If it's there, I think it would be a cool partnership. I think they'd learn from each other pretty well, and I think they'd work well together. You can bet your bottom dollar he is going to be all over this, no doubt about it. Jensen, thanks very much. The sun's shining on the way to school this morning. No, it's actually raining today. Oh. So, not the best weather, but it doesn't matter, because this news is exciting. I'm going to tell my son, Hendrik, see if he's excited about it. There we go. Appreciate it. See you soon, Jensen. Thanks for your time. Enjoy that. It's all right for some, isn't it? Beverly Hills. It's raining in Beverly Hills. Right, come on then, Damon. Let's get your reaction to this news. It's huge, isn't it? It is. You were talking about other events like this, and I was thinking Mansell. That's the only thing I can think of. It's sort of Mansell-esque proportions when Nigel decided he was going to leave and he wasn't going to sign for Williams and he was going to go to the United States. It was going back to those sort of days when you had big announcements and big shifts. This is... as Jensen said, as we all were saying, it's huge for Formula One. It's really put a spring in the step of the start of the season and, things for us to talk about all season long. And, of course, we've got a whole year now before he actually puts on the red overall. So it just rolls through. We don't, David. Look behind you, because that's what he's going to look like. Okay. and I think it suits him. I think they could probably come up with something a bit better than that. I knew you'd style it out with the trousers. You had to put them on. I'm melting into the sofa, I'm sorry. Tell us what your reaction is. Well, I think you can always judge how big news is by how much your phone blows up. And you hear from people, they haven't bothered contacting you for your birthday, for Christmas. Never hear from people. But they want to talk about Lewis going to Ferrari, don't they? Yeah. I'm with Jensen, though. I'm curious as to why he's made the decision now. I don't doubt why he's made the decision. I get the romance of every driver wanting to drive for Ferrari at some point in their career or close out their career there. But why make the decision now? You've got the luxury of 2024. What does he know about this Mercedes that's actually perhaps fueled the decision to come out a bit earlier? Or what does he know about the Ferrari and 2026? Yeah, I mean, look, as a man who's had a subscription to Autosport since, what, I don't know, since 1983, you'll have read every cover page to page since then, but come on.
No, listen, as you say, I do love my history, and that's what I woke up thinking this morning, is there were parallels, right? Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton went on a run of 4 consecutive World Championships, had a year, or in Lewis's case, 2 years without success, and went to Ferrari. And there's absolute parallels. Mansell, you just mentioned, great run of form in the mid-80s of Williams, had a wobbly 1988, went to Ferrari. there's that law which draws these drivers. And Mansell, of course, the last British driver to race for Ferrari. So, for me, the timing, I think you've got a really good point there, which is the timing suggests he doesn't have the confidence that Mercedes are going to dig out of this hole quick enough for him to challenge Max. Lewis Hamilton doesn't exist to finish second. He doesn't care about being second, third, fourth in the World Championship. He probably doesn't remember how many times he's finished second, third, fourth. He exists to win, and he doesn't think he's going to get that chance at Mercedes.
So, Karun, has the romanticism blurred his judgment then? Because why not learn from Vettel? It doesn't mean just because you slip on those overalls it's going to translate to success.
Well, this is the answer that we want to know, isn't it? What has Ferrari told him that is going to be special about the 26 car? Because it's 25 is a transitional year, isn't it, Martin? Like, whatever we're going to have in 24, they'll pretty much evolve the cars for 25 because we have such a big regulation change coming in 26. So what has John Elkann and Fred Vasseur told Lewis Hamilton about 2026 that has convinced him to go there?
And you mentioned Elkann. Elkann is potentially the key here, isn't he? Because we understand they form quite a tight bond, what we hear behind the scenes, and that they've been talking for a while since they met at an event. There is this romanticism that I think that we're buying into, and you're talking about there. But you can imagine, for Lewis, imagine what it would feel like for him in those overalls to stand on the podium at Monza, or to go to Senna's hometown and win the Brazilian Grand Prix in the colours that he never wore, or get a 9th British Grand Prix win at Silverstone. There's so much there that you could look at and think, yeah, I could see why he wanted to do that.
Well, something's dissatisfied him at Mercedes-Benz, there's no doubt about that. But I think also, I imagine Lewis, looking back at the last couple of years, hasn't won a race, realises that his life has taken off all sorts of other extracurricular stuff, and he wants to refocus on his racing. Needs a new challenge as he turns 40. And he's brought Mark Hines back in, his long-standing sort of right-hand man at the track, a racer, as it were. And I think this is Lewis going, right, I want to refocus on my racing driving, and I want this challenge. And I think also, logistically, of course, Ferrari were on the cusp of signing Carlos Sainz. They needed to know, and we all know this business of Formula One, that news would be out in a heartbeat somewhere along the line. So it might as well come out now. And it does mean that Lewis will be, cut out of any knowledge through this season.
Could the extracurricular stuff actually be the defining factor in all of this? We've touched on it earlier about the fact that he could do huge amounts with Ferrari and their brand globally, as he has with Mercedes. Been such a trailblazer. If anyone can achieve that, it is Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, but I think also he could have done a Moss and a Fangio and been a Mercedes ambassador for life, couldn't he?
He said that, didn't he? He said in the past he wants to be with Mercedes like Sterling Moss was for the rest of his life. I think that is... You know what? Over the winter, I watched on Sky documentaries. There's a Agnelli documentary about the Ferrari family, and John Elkann, who's the nephew, is in there. And you just fall in love with it, don't you? You fall in love with the story. There's another one called, I think, Race to Immortality also I saw. And there is something romantic about it, and he's bought into it.
But I think he's an ambassador for Formula One, not necessarily Mercedes. And that's perhaps what he sees as the opportunity.
But David, I want to come to you. I know it was a very different set of circumstances, but when Benson broke the story, was it Hockenheim back in 1995, that you weren't going to be driving for Williams after 1996, you had to deal with that whole situation. You won a championship in 96. But how difficult was it for you, knowing that that had kind of happened?
Well, it's a bit of a shock to the system. It's not quite like the situation that Lewis has taken command of his career and his direction. It's not like Mercedes has said to him, "Oh, we signed someone else," which is what happened with me. So, but I think that in this decision, I just think that we know it's a given, the Ferrari benefits of the brand and all the other things that come with romance and the history and all of that. There's a given. But I think there's more to this, which is I thought there was evidence that Ferrari were starting to solidify as a competitive package. They were starting to put together the components, and they were starting to get results. And I think if you had a choice between Mercedes giving you the same equipment and Ferrari, I think for all the things that Martin was saying, a spring in the step for your career, I'd rather go to Ferrari and try something different.
I think that's a really good point, because ultimately as I say, he exists to win. Charles Leclerc qualified in the front row the last 5 Grand Prix last year. And I think Ferrari showed that upward trajectory.
Yeah, Lewis has got to make sure he goes to Ferrari and does a Michael Schumacher and not Sebastian Vettel or a Fernando Alonso. That's the problem.
Ultimately, though, the Ferrari was the only other car aside from the Red Bull that won last year. Now, let's bring in the man that broke the story. I feel you look a bit awkward standing there.
Come and give me a hug.
I mean, from two.
I don't think I've ever seen you two hug.
It's a shock.
You might never see it again.
12 years.
It's a momentous day. It's a momentous day. Look, you broke the story on Sky Sports News. Talk us through the chronology of this.
I can only take sort of multiple credit for ultimately breaking it, because it was on the Corriere della Sera newspaper this morning that I spotted this story about Project Hamilton and Ferrari targeting him, which I posted on our WhatsApp group, which brought out it's April Fool's Day, not February the 1st today. But I think the chronology is interesting. Listen, it looks like a fait accompli now, but it is interesting that it seems that all day today, Mercedes have been absorbing and adjusting to this news, that I have not been able to be briefed by anyone from Mercedes, even asking the kind of questions about, was all this a kind of mutually amicable breakup that they've had? Was it on the horizon as well? None of that's been explained to me yet. Maybe it will come out along those lines at the end of today. But, I mean, in terms of how it all unfolded today, yes, it was in the Italian press. We rang as the usual protocol you do, both teams, and a flat no comment from both Ferrari and Mercedes. So then you cast around a bit wider. Multiple team principals saying, no, this is happening. I know this is happening. It will be formally announced by the end of today. And some leadership figures from within Formula One saying the same thing. But I have to say, even as I rang it in and put the phone down, I thought, my goodness, surely there's a chance this isn't right today. But of course, we have had the meeting at Mercedes, which we'll hear about shortly. But interestingly, the scant comment I've had from behind the scenes does back up this notion that this has been a courtship over some months, that this has unfolded over some months. But it seems to me, with Mercedes with no obvious replacement standing by and having to have Lewis Hamilton at the team for a further year, maybe knew less about it happening than Ferrari did. Have they been left rather exposed by all of this? We'll have to wait and see what they say.
It's a lesson to you all. That's a news hound. That's how he does it, okay? but yeah, I mean, one thing I'm really curious to know is Toto Wolff's reaction to this, because let's go back to Nico Rosberg. Okay, and again, it caught them out of the blue, didn't it, Mercedes? And do you feel that this has absolutely blindsided them?
Well, first we heard this morning that Toto was going to come to the factory to present his message. Then it ended up being by video link. Normally there's such a well-oiled machine. If something like this happens, there's a news conference called and they explain their side of things. They're in control of the chronology and the timescale and how things are happening. None of that today. I'm not saying he was entirely blindsided. Let's see. I guess there's two possibilities here. One, that Lewis Hamilton had a break clause in his contract, or second, that the close relationship between Lewis and Toto allowed Lewis to come to Toto and say, this is what I want to do. And Toto Wolff says, I respect the fact that what you've given to the team. And yes, I understand where you're coming from. Better that you go than stay.
Okay, any word from the... Sorry, I was
so you know who one of Toto's closest friends is? Fred Vasseur, the boss of Ferrari.
Yeah. But that's another question. To what extent, and yes, Fred and Lewis get on well, but to what extent has this come directly from John Elkann? If we're on deadline day, is this a bit like the chairman or chief executive signing the player, rather than the team manager, who we were given to understand was prioritising engineering recruits? I'm sure he'll be delighted to have Lewis Hamilton, but yeah, I mean, the initial thought was this story in the paper was to drive down Carlos Sainz's terms for his contract extension. Not so.
But the fact that Mercedes announced on the 31st of August that Lewis and George are staying for the next 2 years, you know, as a team boss and as a team, they must have thought, OK, the driver's stuff is done, isn't it? We'll put that to the back of our mind.
Calm down,
Let's focus on sorting the car out. And that's why I think I agree with you. They must have been caught unawares here, because it's only been 5 months and we haven't even started the new contract. We haven't started the first race.
But I'm not sure you can compare it to the Rosberg situation, because that really was at the end of the season and he was panicking to try and get another driver for the start of the next year. He's got a year now to really consider his options.
Yeah. Just finally, conspiracy theories and all the rest of it, and who knew what and how early. Do you think there's a link between Lando Norris, McLaren signing him up long term, and maybe McLaren being aware that this was on the horizon and that Mercedes would target Norris potentially?
So this is what happens when you're a news hound. You get bogged down with conspiracy theories.
He says he's very glad that he did that deal, because Mercedes are now looking around for someone like him, surely.
I'm trying to work out where Gunther Steiner comes into this, Craig. I'm sure he can find
Can he
a way.
drive?
It all happened at a similar time.
We mustn't forget, though, Carlos Sainz. What's the word from his camp? And where does he now look? Is Audi, do you think, the option come 2026 when they come into the sport?
Well, I think we're hearing that perhaps he had sight of this at least a couple of weeks ago. Maybe others in this room will be able to back that up. That's what I've been told. Well, at least he knew that he was not getting a new deal a couple of weeks ago. So whether he knew that Lewis was coming in or not, then I can't ascertain that at this stage. But certainly, yeah, he now needs to find another pathway. But if Mercedes had wanted Sainz, if he was a candidate, why not make a straight swap now and maybe not sit out for a year with a driver on his way out?
They might still do that.
Well, we don't know that yet at the moment, but yeah, you're right. Gazzetta dello Sport have run something on that. Do you want another hug, or just an awkward handshake, or do you want to just go that way?
Hug.
No, we're good with that. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you. Get back to that news desk. Love it. And let's bring in Rachel, who is up in Brackley. And Rachel, we understand there was this emergency meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. What sense do you get from that? Any word of what was said, and what's the general reaction coming out from there?
Well, we got here just before 2 o'clock, Simon, and we saw staff teeming into the building. The car parks filled up. There was no space anywhere. And by 2:15, everyone was leaving. It was a really short meeting. Toto, as you heard from Craig, he wasn't here present at the meeting. We thought he would be. He wasn't. He appeared online. He's abroad right now, which perhaps tells you a little bit to just how surprised they were that this all came out today, maybe. When we started this morning and the rumours were circulating, I'm not sure any of us thought it would actually be confirmed as quickly as that. But as soon as we heard there was a meeting here and all staff had been called in, it looked more and more likely. We know that that's what they were told today, that Lewis will leave at the end of 2024 and he's going to Ferrari for 2025. We're expecting a statement later on this evening, but I just wonder how many signs there were for this. In June last year, I sat down with Fred Vasseur and he said to me, I'm bringing in some big signings. Watch this space, with that twinkle in his eye that he has. We also saw Lewis and his US-based management company, Copper. Their contract came to an end at the end of December of 2023, and he's brought Mark Hines back in. Mark left his employment at the start of 2021. He's back on board, his longtime friend. And are they building this unit again to take to Ferrari? Has this been in the offing for a while? And as far as I'm aware, Lando Norris actually wanted to sign with McLaren from somewhere through the mid part of last year. He was making noises that he wanted to stay with the team longer term. So his deal may have been in the offing for a little bit longer than we imagine. But right now, yes, as you say, everyone here, there were a few shocked faces as they left today. But certainly this season's had a fire put under it, hasn't it? It's going to be very exciting to see what happens this year in that interim year and who ends up here at Brackley in the future. But as I said, Fred said he was bringing in a big signing, and they don't get much bigger than the 7-time world champion, do they?
No, they don't. And Rachel, come on, we might as well ask you. You've had a lot of time to think about this today. Who would you put your money on to replace him in a year's time? That's caught you.
That's a really good question. I want to see how Kimi Antonelli does, the young junior driver they've brought in. A lot of noise is being made about him, but in a year's time is probably too soon for him. So I guess you're looking, Fernando would be the dream, wouldn't it? I've kept my eyes peeled today. I've tried to see if he's come in disguise. Haven't been able to spot him as yet, but I'm sure Toto's phone's been ringing off the hook. He would love a drive here, wouldn't he, in maybe a year's time. Other than that, that is a really difficult one. My first choice would be Lando, but you would imagine that contract at McLaren is pretty watertight.
Yeah, I should imagine. Well, well done for standing out in the cold today. Appreciate it, Rachel. We'll let you get somewhere a little bit warmer. Let's pick up on one of the points, though, that Craig was talking about and Rachel touched upon. There have been a few moments because they were such dogs of cars, the W13 and the W14, Martin, where Lewis has openly questioned the team. He's fallen out with some of the technical staff. Not fallen out with them, but he's openly said, look, we're going in the wrong direction, guys. How much do you think that was a factor?
I think he was frustrated by that. You know, we win together, we lose together. Got a bit thin, didn't it, after, especially when the car was no better for 2023. And maybe he just lost trust in that the team can find their way through and get back on the winning trail. And there are a lot of key people who've left the team as well in that time. And, you know, I'm sure all of these factors played into his decision.
And one of those people is Loic Serra, as we understand, who was the head of vehicle performance at Mercedes, and he was poached by Ferrari. He's gone across. It seemed like Lewis was more aligned with him than he was underneath Mike Elliott when he was in the kind of key technical position.
But Mercedes have changed a whole lot, haven't they? You know, James Allison has come back, and actually, you know, reading some of the interviews he did just before Christmas, it sounded like he'd identified a lot of sort of key areas of weakness in the car for the last 2 years. You know, you mentioned that the car was a bit of a dog. It did finish second in the Constructors' Championship ahead of Ferrari.
Yeah, but
and I think where, for me, it gets really interesting is if this James Allison influence has come in, and they have a good 2024, and they comprehensively beat Ferrari. What's going on in Lewis's head then? Because, you know, has he made the wrong call? He pulled a blinder in 2012 to leave McLaren and come to Mercedes at the right time. But I'm with Jensen. It's a brave move, and it's great for all of us. It's great for box office, and I'm glad he's done it. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Of course, they did finish second in the Constructors' Championship, but they never looked like threatening for a win. And I think that will have been a massive frustration for him. Can I say who I think should have the Mercedes second seat?
No, not yet. We're waiting. Hold off.
Okay, I'm excited.
It's a whole other section. We'll wait for a moment. It's not bad for the share price either. Did you get on this morning and buy a few Ferrari shares?
I haven't.
Not that we knew that it was going to happen, by the way. That's insider dealing.
To add.
We do not. Okay.
Exactly.
Moving on.
Caveat that. Yeah. But I'm just thinking. I mean, there's two aspects to what Natalie was just saying about what, you know, replacement and going through the season. It's a bit of an awkward one, isn't it? You turn up, you've just told everyone that you're leaving, but you're still working with them all for an entire year. But this is the last hurrah, if you like, with Mercedes. You know, they could provide him with a championship-winning car. He could still leave Mercedes with his 8th world title, and that'd be great. But
and then if
he doesn't win the championship,
I love all those first corner moments as well when Hamilton in a Mercedes, you know, crashes with Leclerc in a Ferrari through this year or something like that. All of the sort of jeopardy you get in this intervening time.
But think of Leclerc. His team will be much more guarded with him, knowing that he's going.
Absolutely. Yeah, but think of Leclerc as well. You know, you mentioned he's just signed a new contract long term. He signed that deal thinking, I am Ferrari's man. Yes. I am going to be king of the castle. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're bringing this bloke alongside who's quite good.
Quite a line-up, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
I'm also fascinated by the cultural differences that he's going to experience. I mean, obviously learning the language, but he's got a year to do that. I can imagine him frantically doing the Italian tapes and learning how to communicate, because that is crucial. We saw that with Seb, just how important that was. But culturally, we know that they are very, very different to Mercedes, and I'm fascinated to see how he'll cope with that.
I just want to hear Lewis speaking Italian. That'd be fantastic.
He'd be maybe a natural. You never know.
Fred doesn't speak a whole lot of Italian, does he?
English is the first language in the sport, even with Ferrari. It's ridiculous.
And of course, Lewis will be very comfortable with Fred Vasseur, wasn't he? He came through the junior ranks with him. They won together. Right. So I think that's a really important comfort zone for Lewis to make this step. OK, let's cross to Italy now, and we can join Carlo Fanzini, our Italian colleague. Carlo, you know, it obviously broke at just after midnight in Italy. Talk us through your morning. Obviously, front page news. How has the country reacted to this?
So, first of all, I don't believe that Lewis will talk Italian because it's not so easy. What we expect that he talk his language, that is to drive strong and try to win the championship, the 8th championship with Ferrari. You are right. We were last night at midnight. with some rumors before in the afternoon that maybe there were some problem with Carlos' contract. There was not a signature on it, so we were asking why they're waiting for this. There was some problem about rights of Carlos' image, and the later day we heard about Lewis, and was crazy, was impossible for us. Then we have Terruzzi, that is our colleague from Corriere della Sera, with Daniele Sparisci. They decide to write the story. The story is that Lewis will arrive, and is one of that marriage that you have to have, because we know in the last 10 years almost 3 times John Elkann and Ferrari were close to close with Lewis an agreement. And I agree with you, everybody, that is quite a great story for Formula One, for Ferrari, for Italian fans, because it's since this morning that I received a message that is like Ferrari has won the championship, but not yet. But I think that, but we are Italian. This is the way that we live and we love this sport. It's the same situation that we had when Andrea Agnelli decided to buy Ronaldo for Juventus. And the last but not least is that we are looking at the result on the stock market, and today also because they announced the result of the last quarter, Ferrari earn 5 billion, so they can buy 500 times, I think, Lewis at the moment. So this is the situation, and all people are crazy for that, and we don't matter about the age. The age is not a matter at the moment. The only matter is that Lewis Hamilton will come in Ferrari 2015, we think, maybe before, because fans would like before. Poor Carlos for that, but we will see.
Okay, well, we will see. But with regards to that, I'm fascinated by what the Tifosi will think of this, because they've taken Charles to their heart as kind of the number one, I would have thought, despite the fact that Carlos has been so successful versus him as well. How are they going to play this? Who's going to be the more popular driver? Will they all just defect to Lewis, or will it just be, oh, we don't mind, it's just the team and we just want the team to win?
But I think that the situation is not so easy. Okay, today is a fantastic day when we will have the official announcement on where, for the first time, Lewis will dress on red. What we know that on Monday there will be an appointment with Carlos for an event close here to Milan. What we know is that for Carlos, for him, is at the moment sure that he will drive for Ferrari in 2024. And what we know also that he is not to worry about is a week that his group and Carlos know that Lewis is coming. So last week they knew, and I think that also Charles knew before signing the new contract about this. And he's not to worry at the moment. I think that he will have so many opportunities with Aston Martin, probably with Audi, with which the father has won the 4th Dakar. And what will happen on track, we will see. We will see. The most important thing is to see if Ferrari will be competitive, if Mercedes will be competitive. And at the moment when the team will ask to Carlos to give the way to Charles, or Lewis to give position to George, maybe we'll enjoy that moment. But I think that Carlos is quite a professional driver. I think that he has done, and he will do a great job with Ferrari. It's a strange season for everybody, for Ferrari, for Mercedes, for Lewis, for Charles, for everybody. Then, but we are dreaming. We are dreaming with this, with the old champion, with the young boy that want to become world champion. Or maybe at the end we will have like Ayrton and Alain, with Alain that was the champion and Ayrton has to win. Then they fight. But I don't know. The most important thing that today we have quite a big story for Formula One and for sport and for Lewis. I have only a thing to tell you. One day I was in Hungary. You know that in Hungary in the paddock there is a little table to play tennis table, and I play with Anthony Hamilton, his father, and talking. I asked him, okay, but Lewis will come in Ferrari a day or not? I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. And he told me, for sure, we started our career in Italy and we would like to close the career in Italy dressing on red. And now, I thought that was not possible with the last contract, Lewis, with the Mercedes. But now, it's becoming reality and is a dream that become a great story for everybody.
Thank you, Carlo. We appreciate it. I think Carlo's excited. I think it sounds like that. It sounds like the plot of a movie. This, doesn't it? Maybe a Brad Pitt movie. I mean, it's almost like he's living the exact dream that Brad Pitt's going to be doing. It's just the storyline of this thing.
Art imitating life and all that.
It is,
the other way around. Interestingly, I don't believe, although it might not feel it at the moment, that this is bad news for Carlos Sainz. I think ultimately he will go to Audi and really shape that team around him. This could be the best thing for his career. What he does in that interim year will be interesting. I think this is worse news for Charles Leclerc, because I think that this does upset the apple cart for him.
Yeah.
You know, he was starting to really kind of bed in and, you know, pally with Fred Vasseur, and now Lewis is pallier with Fred Vasseur.
Yeah, but this is not a sport about being friends. And ultimately, Carlos is going to be... He's been booted out of one of the top 3 cars on the grid, and a car that gave him victory at the Singapore Grand Prix. And that's bad news. And Audi, they're not going to arrive and be at the front of the grid. It's just...
That's years away, yeah.
It's years away. And I
Carlos
think...
is still young.
I think, yeah, but everyone's sort of connecting him to Audi because of the connection with his dad. Reality is... I could see him going to Aston. I could see him on the phone to Toto. He wants to be winning now. He's in his 30s. He can't wait years for Audi to get there.
Talking of his dad, just won Dakar again, hasn't he? And I wonder how heavily he'll lean on him for support at a very difficult time for him in his career.
Yeah, I think he's, it's brilliant what Carlos Senior has done. I mean, he's just a phenomenon. I mean, King Carlos, a rally driver. I mean, he's just brilliant. And an inspiration for Junior as well. So definitely they'll be getting together and thinking, right, what's the strongest way forward? You know, and it might be, can he go to Mercedes? I mean, can he go to Red Bull?
Would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his, Carlos Jr. I think he's got the tenacity of his dad. I don't think he's got the speed of Charles Leclerc, but he's always there at the end of a Grand Prix. And that victory...
He's a very good thinker.
Very smart. Yeah. And the way he won in Singapore was outstanding. So he would be a great catch for Aston Martin, for Mercedes-Benz. He's got to be on their list. So is Alex Albon. We're not there yet, are we?
No, we're not. Yeah. Back off.
You knew what I was going to say, didn't you?
You know, and he'll be casting around all the teams. But, of course, you know, Carlos now faces the same problem we were talking about earlier on, as so many other drivers have now got long-term deals and have really nailed their seats down. So he'll be crestfallen, I think, to lose that Ferrari drive. Yep. Yeah. But I think he's a star of the future.
Yeah,
still.
but they've managed his career. He's got a good team around him, hasn't he? You just feel that, and they've managed his career well to get him into that Ferrari in the first place. Yeah.
Or Red Bull.
Red Bull. Hey, that's
would he go back to Red Bull?
Could he go back to Red Bull and be with his old teammate from Toro Rosso?
That's what's great about this news.
Yeah, it is, because we're going to keep talking about it. Yeah. But look, we've had hints. We had hints as early as 2021. This is what Lewis had to say at the Italian Grand Prix.
It's definitely going to be crazy to think that I never drove for Ferrari, because that was for everyone that's a dream position to be in, but it was just never really fully on the cards for me, and I'll never know fully exactly why, but I wish them all the best, and I'm going to spend the next bit of my time stopping them from winning the championship. But of course, I look at the pictures that these two drivers post, and the red is still the red.
It's an itch he had to scratch, isn't it?
But interestingly, he's also said he didn't understand why the opportunities haven't come sooner. So presumably they hadn't made an explicit direct offer to him until now.
Yeah, that was a very interesting comment in hindsight, wasn't it? Of I don't know why it hasn't worked out. As if there was something to work out. But, I mean, the number of times on Sky F1 we've asked Lewis about, do you not fancy finishing your career in red and all that sort of thing? And he's always, of course, he's just giving it a straight bat, hasn't he? Because what else could he do? But
he's also very canny as well. He knows he doesn't want to offend Ferrari by saying, "Oh, I'd never drive for Ferrari" or something. He's saying all the right things, but also he's probably saying between the lines, "I'm actually better at that time. I'm better off where I am at Mercedes. So maybe another time." And this is the time. It seems like the time has come when the balance tipped in their favour, and he's gone there.
For me, it's a sign that he's still got the fire in his belly. At a point where he's about to start his 18th season in Formula One. That's 18 years where he's spending 300 days living out of a suitcase, on the road, events. They're not doing as much testing as they were back in the day, but it's still, a tough mental load to take, especially when you're at the sharp end, at the pinnacle, and the pressure he's under. So to still have that motivation, I mean, I'd like to get your take on it, because that's something you've talked about openly.
I didn't have the motivation. I gave up.
You were burnt out, didn't you, in the middle of '99? But for him to still have that fire to take on a young charger like Charles Leclerc, who I've said before, and people have disagreed with me, but I still think he's the fastest driver over one lap in F1. To take that challenge on at this age, after this length of time, is impressive.
I think it's very interesting. Lewis studies other athletes. Is it Tom Brady who carried that? And also Kelly Slater, who carried on his career way into his 40s, I think. And, he's still competitive. And I think he sees beyond Lewis, sees beyond normal limits. He always has done. And I think that he'll be motivated. He's organised his life in a way that he can give his best, not put himself under so much stress doing marketing stuff. He does what he wants and then he turns up in races. I think he's got quite a few years left of being competitive.
you have to remember, drivers now have been racing since they were 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's all they've ever known in their lives, and they run out of steam. But I think you lose the need. You don't necessarily lose the speed. But there are two exceptions, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, that we're seeing at the moment, that somehow find this motivation, this energy that they have, and just keep driving forward.
OK, well, let's move it on a couple of years. So he then renews a contract, doesn't he, on August the 31st, I think, of last year. And this is what he had to say at the Italian Grand Prix following that.
Well, the goal within those 2 years is 100% to be fighting and to win a world championship. We're second in the Constructors' Championship now. Is to dethrone those that are at the top. And I 100% have faith that we can do that. In terms of long term, I'm thinking about my next contract. I'm thinking about what that will look like, how long that will be. I plan to be here for a while, but it could change. Like, I could come back next year and it could be like, damn it, who knows? You never know where you're going to be in life. But right now, I'm very focused on just my, staying positive every day. And I know that's not easy for anyone.
Where's he been in the off season? You follow, I mean, on Instagram. I don't know what's happened here, because it's interesting picking up, though, isn't it? I mean, maybe he's had one of those kind of life moments
I've never heard of. Lewis, he always pops up, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's all over the place. But actually, with regards to that, something's flipped in the off season here, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, you get the opportunity just to take stock, don't you? I mean, it's the same for all of us. Yeah, you have clarity of thought.
What
probably
have you come back thinking?
Baby number 3. No, I'm joking. You have clarity of thought for the first time, because the season is so intense. And just to be able to step back from it and really consider your options for the future. I mean, you see it in football, you see it in all sports, and it's great for him.
These are not, matter of the moment decisions. I mean, you've got contracts to sort out. They take months and months to go through.
No, you're right. This has happened a long time
there's
ago.
definitely been some longer-term planning to this one.
Yeah,
good point. A scratch golfer or an astronaut.
I mean,
it's more likely. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What have you been thinking about you're going to do with your life in the off-season?
If you want to stop doing something and not do anything else, that's fine. Yeah. But if you want to do something else, you've got to put the contract in place.
Do you know what I do sense? This has happened quite quickly yes, of course, there's some gestation to the whole thing, but I do sense he's got up and gone, right, hang on a minute, this didn't work the last couple of years. He's got Mark Hines in, we talked about earlier on, and it's almost like he's getting his racing group back together again and just refocusing everything.
Yeah. You know what? The other thing I was thinking about this morning on my way here is Lewis's end of season last year didn't go well. He had a tough race in Brazil where they went back with his tyres, didn't have a good run in Vegas, had a bad run in Abu Dhabi. And I wonder if this was weighing on his mind in that period of going, hang on a second, this is a bit of a slog here. Do I need a new challenge? And listen, we're all thinking of this in hindsight, aren't we?
Yeah.
At the time, we just go, form's gone, whatever.
There was a time when he was pushing for second in the championship, and then he had a handful of bad results. Checo came back. But, I mean, I wonder, as you say, whether it would be different if that happened.
Yeah, so there were rumours, weren't they, early last year? Potentially he might have gone across to Ferrari. And at the Monaco Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc was asked what he might feel about having Lewis as his teammate.
OK, look, one final question from me, Charles. There's been a bit of speculation in the media recently with regards to your future partner at Ferrari. What do you look for in a teammate?
Hello, Lewis. I mean, a fast teammate, as everybody. We are in Formula One and we love to be fighting against the best. But that's not to say that my teammate is not fast. Carlos is an extremely fast driver. But yeah, considering that, I mean, I'm not the person who makes the choices. So, yeah, let's see.
Would you welcome Lewis?
If I say yes, I imagine it being the title of every newspaper. But, I mean, Lewis is such an incredible driver, has achieved so much in the sport. So I think anybody on the grid will love to have Lewis as a teammate, as everybody will learn a lot from him. But, yeah, again, I'm happy where I am. And with Carlos, it's a great relationship too.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah. Put yourself in his shoes there this evening. There we go. That is Lewis Hamilton's F1 career. It is an unparalleled record in terms of the amount of wins and pole positions that he's had. He got 21 of his wins with McLaren, 82 of his wins with Mercedes. And you just go down there and he has just amassed an incredible legacy. It's 7 championships, yes. It probably could and should have been 8, but he's got that opportunity now to secure that with Ferrari outside of the Mercedes family, because obviously Mercedes were an engine supplier for McLaren during that time as well. You picked up on a really interesting point, I thought, Martin, with regards to the relationship with Fred Vasseur. Let's not forget, yes, Lewis has got history with Fred Vasseur, but so too has Charles Leclerc. How's that going to get managed? And again, what do you think Charles will be thinking this evening?
I think Charles will look at how George Russell handled being up against Lewis, and I think George has been supremely smart and fast and good as to how he did that. I don't see... Charles is not a really spiky, kind of aggressive kind of personality. I think he'll work with it. He'll see an opportunity. I can measure myself against, statistically, the greatest of all time, is what Charles Leclerc... And it's my patch as well. This is where I've been now for a long time, but he'll know he's got his hands full. But I think Charles is now experienced enough and fast enough to handle that, especially as he's so well established at Ferrari.
Lewis won the Formula 3 European Championship with Fred's ART team in 2005, GP2 in 2006. But, you can see the pictures we've just seen. But I remember in Magny-Cours, 2007, his first year with McLaren, we were at this restaurant, and Fred Vasseur was sitting at the next table to my dad and me. And Lewis walked in and sat down and had it was just the two of them having a sort of private dinner. And I always thought that was, an interesting... It's been a long time ago. Well, it's been a long time ago. I didn't know you then, 2007. But, it was one of those things where you think he still had that, that friendship. It's like, I need a confidant here to talk about this intense battle I'm with with Fernando Alonso at McLaren, and Fred was that person. I still remember that.
And that matters in this sport, doesn't it?
Also, I'm pretty sure wandering around places like Monza, if Ferrari couldn't win, the famous tifosi were happy that Lewis was winning. He's been very popular
there.
over in Italy, hasn't he? I think they'll go mad for him over there. I think he'll be super comfortable.
Of the podium in Monza and him just lapping it up. I'm sure that image alone would be very persuasive.
He's very, very quick over one lap. We all agree on that point with Charles. Yeah. But wheel to wheel, can he go wheel to wheel with Lewis and come out on top, do you think?
I think Lewis has got that experience, the patience. He's learned to be patient. He knows he can use the speed if he needs to. I think Charles, I've seen, and you've commented enough times, Martin, you know, there's every occasion where there's occasional times where he makes mistakes and he drops the ball. But he's been getting better at that. But I think that Lewis will be looking at Charles and thinking, I can get him. In races, I think I'm a better racing driver. It may be that Charles can pip him in over one lap.
OK, right, now we're going to finish with the question you've probably all answered already, but who is going to replace it? Come on, Nats, you can start with this
I would like
who
to
is
see
going to replace
Alex
Lewis?
Albon in there.
You would?
Yeah.
Quite simply, why
I think
is
he
that?
deserves it. I think actually going to Williams was brilliant for his career, boosted his confidence, but now is time for him to take the step back towards the front of the grid.
Well, they'll be looking at Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon. Don't forget Esteban Ocon is within the Mercedes family anyway. He's kind of on loan to Alpine. Carlos Sainz has got to be on their list. And I think that's the short list.
I'd like to see either Carlos Sainz or Oscar Piastri. I think, we know Oscar's got a contract with McLaren, but Mark Webber's negotiated plenty of F1 contracts in his past, and I'm sure there's got to be an escape clause somewhere. As we've seen with Lewis, there's escape somewhere. Oscar's debut season was brilliant. He had weaknesses as race pace, no doubt about it, but another year of experience will build on that. And I think Oscar and George as a lineup at Mercedes is a good one for the future.
But if you're Oscar or Mark, would you go to Mercedes when you've seen that Lewis has left and leave McLaren, which actually may be a better bet?
You will if you think that... Well, it's whether you think it's a better bet. And for me, with the new engine formula coming in 26, I'd want to go to a works team as Lewis did in 2014.
George will be sitting there at Mercedes thinking, right, now's my time.
Yes, absolutely.
He's left.
Yeah.
Now it's me. And he'll be wanting to be regarded as the future of the team and as the strong hope for everything. So whoever comes alongside him is going to have to fit in with that. But I think the fact that we are not thinking in terms of Mercedes have got George Russell there and it's going to be as strong as ever just shows you the size of the hole that Lewis has left.
Well, Alex and George are best mates, remember?
Yeah. I got on the phone to Nico Rosberg earlier. Yeah,
He's coming back.
Explosions going off behind him. I think he's coming back. I think I'm going to bet on that or Sebastian Vettel out of retirement.
Right.
Or not, as the case may be. There's a lot of long shots. There's going to be a lot of discussion, isn't there, about this. Personally, I think you might be right there. I think Alex Albon's a very, very good bet. But waiting in the wings, as we know, Kimi Antonelli, who is the 17-year-old Italian driver, part of that Mercedes young driver programme, and they've got great hopes for him. Into F2, skipping one for this year, and we'll be taking a keen interest on how he goes this year. But there we go, we've got something to talk about, haven't we, at the start of this year? It's not all going to be about Max dominating again, because Lewis, in a year's time, is going to Ferrari. It puts the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons, and it's not long to wait, though, until the first race of 2024. Testing is before then, but from February the 29th to March the 2nd, that first Grand Prix of the new season, and this will make it even spicier. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Karun. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Natalie. Thanks to Jensen and Craig as well, and to you all. But there we go. And Rach, yeah. How about that? Yeah, and Carlo, you're right. How about that for a start to 2024? Next year, Lewis will be dressed in red. Bye-bye.
Sky Sports F1. Feel it all.